All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone, hour number 2 of tonight's show, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. My gosh, it's going to be one of those days again, isn't it, Craig? Exonation, our guest of this hour is Kate KUNKEL, and Kate is in Ecuador. And first of all, Kate, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Rob.
Okay, Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners who weren't with us last time you joined us.
Sure. I'm as you said, I'm a Canadian living here in Ecuador. I became a sound therapist and harpist 35 years ago. And now that I'm here, I get to practice it on my lovely new compatriots and also work with them for helping them improve their brain function, because I don't want anybody to go down the road my mama did. So that's basically me in a nutshell, music and the brain.
Now, Kate, you mentioned you didn't want people to go through or go down the road your mom did. What was that road, and what was it like?
Oh, well, I'm sure that many of your listeners, Rob, can relate to this because it's so prevalent nowadays. My mom died with dementia. She actually died of cancer, but it was with dementia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was very, very fast once it was diagnosed, like the dementia. Her decline was just incredibly fast. Perhaps that had something to do with her physical condition as well. I don't know. But she went from being she had the largest private doll collection in Canada. She had a little doll store and museum in Tillsonburg, Ontario. She was a brilliant self-made woman. She just worked so hard, and she just, I don't know, it just hit like a ton of bricks when all of a sudden she had no interest in her dolls. She had no interest in anything. And from there, her language started going, her ability to even control her bodily functions. It happened so fast, Rob. It was terrifying.
What were some of the signs and symptoms that you noticed prior to your mom's diagnosis?
Yeah, so the big thing was that she would muddle up words, like she couldn't get a sentence all in a row. Like it would be, and she wouldn't have the right words for things. She would look at it and she'd say, that thing there, pointing to like a plate or something. And so those were the first signs. And then her personality really changed. And now that I've done all this work studying and working with brain health clients, I know that this is very common to have huge personality changes. She became very aggressive and angry, which was not my mom. But now we know that that's the frontotemporal part of the dementia. She had it in several parts of the brain, obviously, but that changes how you react to other people. It changes your personality. So that was the real big sign for us that we've got to get her tested. And it took a long time, Rob. They just don't. It's very frustrating. And I know this is for many people. The diagnosis is just not good. The way to get a diagnosis is really not very robust.
Why does it take so long, Kate?
I think a lot of it is, number one, when patients become befuddled, they are denying it. The family denies it. It's going to take their driver's license away. So that's part of it. So they don't go for diagnosis. That's one thing. The second part is it's really, really hard to even diagnose. And most people would go to their GP, right? Their family doctor. And the GP doesn't know a lot about dementia. He can take your temperature and he can take your blood pressure, and he might be able to refer you to a neurologist, but I know in Canada that can take a very, very long time. And even then, how many times does a neurologist look inside the brain? Really look inside the brain? Especially with the idea of all the costs involved with PET scans and CT scans and,
right.
and MRIs. It's a big issue because even if you can see some of the differences, many times it doesn't get tested properly. There are some blood tests now that they're using. It's very much in an experimental stage that can tell if there are certain markers for Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's is only one kind of dementia. And then, of course, the tests, the cognitive tests that are given are so broad, and it's really hard to know exactly what's going on. So I think that whole combination, and then frankly, most doctors just don't know. They just don't know. And that's who most people go to when they start having these issues.
Kate, what other types of dementia are there? You mentioned Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, there's frontotemporal. Oh my goodness. Even Parkinson's is a form of dementia.
Really?
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so the one that Robin Williams had. I'm sorry, my brain is losing the words right now. But there are so many forms, and they affect different parts of the brain.
Right.
So like the frontotemporal, like I mentioned with mom, there's the hippocampus. When you've got memory issues, it's usually because the hippocampus has shrunk. So that's there's Lewy body dementia. And of course, there's mixed dementia. You can have dementia because you've had strokes and high blood pressure and heart diseases. That's vascular dementia. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is considered a form of dementia, even though it comes from basically a prion from eating certain things.
Right.
So there are all these different forms of dementia, and they affect different parts of the brain, and they affect then how you present with dementia, what your symptoms are as they come out. Alzheimer's disease tends to be a little bit more with the memory. Frontotemporal is going to be more about the personality. So, yeah.
Now, Kate, you're pretty passionate about your music and dementia. Have you found that there is something that can be done to help people with dementia by music?
Oh, tons. It's hard to know where to start, but I can tell you that there are many different therapies.
Okay.
One of the things that I do is called vibroacoustic therapy. That's using sound applied directly to the body, low frequency. So anything from 30 hertz to 120 hertz. So that's pretty low frequency. It's still audible though. And a person lies on a lounge or sits on a chair that has transducers in it. And those transducers conduct the sound directly into the person's body. Why is this valuable? Because we know that 40 hertz actually stimulates brain cell neurogenesis. So there's an experiment that has been done. They actually applied 40 hertz sound to cells, and they can see that it helps them replicate. So that's one thing. So if you're doing that with brain neurons, if you do that with brain cells, then what's the problem with dementia? Well, it's because the brain cells are atrophying or dying or being damaged in some way. So if we can actually spur neurogenesis, then we can help with the brain. And there's a fellow there in Toronto, Dr. Lee Bartel, who is one of the pioneers in this modality. And he's done studies, even just like with human subjects, and we put them on the sound system, whatever this vibroacoustic device might be, and he's actually seen reversal of symptoms of cognitive decline. Why? Probably because of the increase. Firstly, the vibration itself helps stimulate many things, including circulation. So we're improving circulation and oxygen flow to the brain. What do we need to have a healthy brain? Lots of oxygen. Our brains are oxygen hogs, and circulation, blood flow.
Right. Now, you say that your specialty is brain health. Now, do you mean brain health or mental health?
They're kind of intertwined, aren't they? Because you can't have really good mental health if you don't have a good brain. So they're both, and I do work with both aspects of health in the head. So brain health is the physical brain, of course. And that is where we have all the connections with our physical body through the vagus nerve, which we can talk about later if you like.
Oh, I'd love to.
But our brain has to be nourished with good foods, with good, especially the microbiome, which is in our gut. Of course, it has to feed everything. And the brain is one of the things that really depends on a healthy microbiome. In fact, they call the gut the second brain. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yes, there are all kinds of people in this field who say that the gut is actually the second brain because there's a connection between the two. It's with the vagus nerve, but it's like an information superhighway, and it goes from the brain to the gut and back again. So everything that goes on in the gut is also having an impact on the brain and vice versa. So here's where the mental health comes in. If you're not being nourished properly, then your brain is not going to function properly. And if your brain is not functioning properly, then you might not be able to make good choices, or you might have, stressful thoughts that can't go away. You might be anxious. You might be unable to focus. Think of ADHD. We know that many kids with ADHD become perfectly cognizant. They can be calmer if their diets are changed. No more sugar, no more junk food, no more processed foods. You feed a kid that has that diagnosis with a gut healthy diet, and you can actually change how he or she responds. So we know then that impact between the brain and the gut is huge. Mental health is so intimately tied to brain health and gut health. So really, yes, of course you can have traumas, emotional trauma that can affect you, absolutely. But then you can get better after you've dealt with whatever that is. But if your brain isn't healthy, if your gut isn't healthy, it makes it really hard to deal with those things that affect us all.
All right,
We're
Kate.
all affected by terrible things.
Kate, you and I are going to have to take our first break. Please stand by. Exo Nation,
Right.
Kate KUNKEL is our special guest. BrainHealthMatters.today is her website. And Kate and I will be back on the other side of this very short break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn.
What will you see? What will you be? Anything you want to love is easy. How will you know if I am for you? You won't know me to see me, but you'll know by what I do. For
Kate KUNKEL is our special guest, Exo Nation. Her website is brainhealthmatters.today. Last time you were on the show, you were telling us about how humming can help. How does humming help?
Humming is a great calming mechanism. We were talking about depression and anxiety just before we went to the break. And if you can hum in a mindful way, you can really help alleviate some of the symptoms of that depression and anxiety. But also it actually stimulates that vagus nerve that we were talking about. that information superhighway that goes from the brain to basically all your organs, but we were talking about the gut-brain connection.
Right.
If we hum, remember the vagus nerve is actually behind our voice box, our sound, where we create that sound. So it's actually stimulating it, it's vibrating it. So it's making the vagus nerve more robust and healthy and able to communicate better. So that's one big thing. Also, humming puts us in the parasympathetic, which is the rest, relax, and rejuvenate state. So if we're humming, we're helping our bodies heal. What does a cat do? It purrs, right? If a cat is really sick or injured, and I've witnessed this many times, I have 8 rescue cats, they purr. It's the equivalent of our humming, and it basically has the same function for them. It's comforting. It puts them in a relaxed state. We do the same with humming. So if we, in mindful humming, would you like to do a little exercise, a little demonstration?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So take a really deep breath. Listeners, take a really deep breath. Get it down into your diaphragm. And then as you exhale, hum. It can be a note, just one note, or a bunch. You're going to feel that, right? You probably felt it in your skull even.
Yeah, I did.
That is yes, of course. And of course, you have that lovely mellifluous voice, so you're going to really feel it. But you've got that reaction inside the skull, inside the brain. It kind of works like yawning also. It stimulates. Yawning has many, many purposes, but yawning, humming, toning, all of those things help to calm us down. So that's one of the things, humming. But if you do it mindfully, like use it like a meditation. Meditation has been well shown to have great benefits for learning, for memory, for brain health, for so many things. And humming can actually be like a bridge to that if you aren't really used to, like mindful humming I'm talking about here, if you're not used to meditating. It's a great way to get started.
How come we haven't learned about this before, and how come these techniques with the music, with the humming, isn't that well known or being practiced by many doctors?
Doctors, yeah. So, I mean, we know that in the medical schools, even nutrition is only like 3 hours.
That's it?
Right?
Holy
yeah.
cow.
Most medical schools. If you get a day of it, you're pretty lucky. It is just not a part of most medical schools. They have to teach doctors how to prescribe drugs, right? So that's a part of the problem, because doctors are not taught to actually get to the root of the problem. They're taught very well how to put us back together again when we're broken. The Western medical profession is awesome at heart replacements and knee replacements and putting you back together after an accident. But it's really bad at chronic issues, at anything that is not broken, that you can physically see, right? So that's part of it. Music is a way of dealing with the underlying causes of things. And frankly, there's no room for that in the Western medical model as we know it. Now, there are many, many integrative physicians are coming out now. There's many more practitioners who are integrating music and diet and other lifestyle changes. It's coming, but it's slow. And that's the problem. So that's why we don't hear of this. That's why we were not prescribed humming. The first thing I say to a client when they come to me, number one, get rid of the sugar, dump the sugar.
Right.
Number two is to start music, start humming, because it has so many, and toning, which is like humming. Anything to do to get your vagus nerve stimulated, to get your body in that wonderful, relaxing state. Because where does cancer come from? I mean, besides the actual cancer cells, how do they get so active? Stress. Stress is a huge contributor to cancer. It's a huge contributor to dementia, and it can actually cause depression, right?
Yes.
Which can mimic dementia. Oftentimes, depression is misdiagnosed as dementia and vice versa.
That's scary. You know, that
Pretty
is
scary, Rob.
Right. You know, because while all this research or these tests or these studies are going on, how many people are actually dying? How many people are getting worse?
Yeah, and feeling hopeless.
Exactly.
That's what makes me so sad, because for any of us, whether it's cancer, whether it's an autoimmune disease, whether it's early cognitive decline, if you've got that, the first thing is to be scared, and many people feel hopeless. Oh my God, my dad died of cancer. I'm never going to survive this. Oh my God, my mom died with dementia. I'm never going to make it. Because that's what they're told. When my mom was diagnosed, Rob, the doctor just said, well, you'll just have to get her affairs in order.
That's it.
That's it. Get ready to put her in a nursing home. Okay. It'll happen eventually, so you might as well start calculating the financial impact of that.
So the battle's lost even before it started.
Exactly. That's what makes you crazy when you see that. And I've heard that from so many family members of clients, or, they went through the same thing. They're told, just get your affairs in order. There's nothing you can do. Well, Rob, there is nothing further from the truth. There are so many things that can be done. Say you're 55 years old and you start losing your keys all the time.
Yes.
Or you get lost coming home from somewhere you've been before. Mm-hmm. That can be pretty scary, right?
It certainly can.
So you go and get some tests for early cognitive decline, and you're found, and it's, that's probably, where you're headed. You're headed towards dementia. But that doesn't mean you're headed toward dementia. It means you've got a chance now, because you've noticed it. You have an opportunity now to make changes that can change it, because we know that we can prevent dementia. One of my teachers, Dr. Dale Bredesen, has published 2 studies showing that he can not only help people prevent dementia, but he can actually reverse it. And one of his mentees, Dr. Heather Sanderson, has a study also showing that they could actually reverse Alzheimer's, even mid-stage.
Once again, I have to ask, why is this information not being given to the public? I mean, is it just a matter of the pharmaceutical industry making more money, and by doing that, neglecting other possible cures that don't include the big pharma? And by doing that, they are also adding to the death sentence of these poor people.
Yeah, and the disruption of the families. It's the death of the one who's affected, right, but it's the impact on everybody in the family. I think part of it might be this big push. The same with cancer. We know that there are many ways to treat cancer that do not involve pharmaceuticals. Right. You don't have to cut, burn, and poison. You don't have to do that. So we know that the same is applicable with Alzheimer's, because those drugs for Alzheimer's are very expensive. Very expensive. And they keep doing these studies, and they just approved one that actually didn't. Most of the people on the board said no, on the FDA said no, we shouldn't approve it, but they did anyway. So why? Where did that come from? Who got paid off for that? That's my way of, I think I have to ask that question. But I think that's part of it. I think also it is not willful, but just simple ignorance on the part of neurologists. They do not know about these studies. There's the Alzheimer's Association. I get their newsletter. And yes, they talk about you can help reduce the likelihood of developing dementia, Alzheimer's, if you do these lifestyle steps, meaning exercise and a better diet and all that. But I have never once, Rob, seen anything on their site about Dr. Bredesen's work or Dr. Sanderson's work. Nothing. And those are the sources where people go to get information about this disease. So I don't know why they don't. I don't understand it. I have written to them. I've sent them copies of the PDFs of the studies. Nada. Absolute zip, silence, crickets.
Can you send me copies of the PDFs of the studies?
Oh, absolutely. I would be happy to.
And I will make sure that my contacts within the media as well as the medical community get copies of them.
Oh, that would be so awesome. Yes, I will send them to you when we get off the phone.
I appreciate that, Kate. I really do, because Like you said, it's not only the patient who receives the diagnosis, it's the family. And it must change their world forever. But if
It
something...
changed ours, Rob.
Yes, God bless you for going through what you did. And you know what? I can't imagine the turmoil that happens within a family. And then knowing that there are ways to combat this disease and nobody's doing anything about it, that's criminal.
To me, I believe it is. Yes, it is criminal. And there's, you know, we can speculate till we're blue in the face about why so many of these things go on like this, but it happens in so many fields. Even autoimmune disease, which is a very big risk factor, by the way, for dementia. If somebody has rheumatoid arthritis, MS, many of these other autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, it is a huge risk factor for developing dementia. And they have the same genesis. It's
Wow.
the same reason we get those for the same reason we get dementia. That's probably why it's such a risk factor. But if people understood that the very same lifestyle changes that we talk about in Apollo, which is Dr. Bredeson's and Dr. Amon's, then we could fix this at the root. We could get these poor people who are in pain all the time with fibromyalgia, who lose their ability to walk with MS.
Yeah.
You know, then that same thing, it's criminal that people are not given that information. You know, MS drugs. Yeah, okay, that's great, but you're still declining. It doesn't stop.
That's right.
you.
And a lot of the MS drugs don't work on everybody.
Same as the Alzheimer's drugs.
All right, Kate, stand by. We've got to take this short break, and Kate Kunkel and I will be back on the other side of the short break as we continue here in the X Zone on your hometown radio, Classic 1220. Don't go away.
Precious and few are the moments we two can share. Quiet and blue like the sky, I'm all over you. And if I can't find my way back home, it just wouldn't be.
Kate Kunkel is my guest, Exonation. Her website is brainhealthmatters.today. That's brainhealthmatters.today. How does the music work when it comes to Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases? Is it the vibration? Is it the tone? Is it the megahertz? What is it, in your opinion?
It's many, many things. So let's go back to what music is.
Okay.
Music is frequencies,
Yes.
right? Of many, many frequencies. It's really hard to determine what it is about the music that makes the difference because there are so many frequencies. And when we get to the brain, we really need to think frequency.
Right.
So we know that with certain frequencies, we stimulate neurite growth, like with the 40 hertz. So that's part of it. But yes, you're right about music also as a modality is actually helping us, depending on how we're using it. Are we listening to it? Are we playing it? Like, are we making music? Are we drumming? So let me give you a few examples.
Sure.
If you listen mindful, remember I talked about humming mindfully, we can also just listen to music in a very mindful way. Most of us just have it sort of on in the background, right? It's just there and we enjoy it and we might hum along or sing along. But if you sit and you actually mindfully listen to music, it stimulates your brain in much the same way that it can when you are playing music. And I'll get to that in a minute because it's very important.
Okay.
But if you say pick a piece of classical music and you follow one of the instruments, I love the cello. I love listening to cello. So whenever I sit and do my mindful listening practice, which is also kind of like a meditation, follow one of the instruments. What's your favorite instrument?
The French horn.
French horn. There you go. So pick a piece of music that has a French horn featured in it. Listen to that music in a very mindful way and follow the French horn. So then you're taking kind of the place of the musician, where he comes in or she comes in and out with the other musicians, the melody or the counter melody, the harmony, what's it doing? And very mindfully listen to that. It's stimulating your brain in much the same way as making music, as playing it. Isn't that cool?
I guess I do that subconsciously, because when I do listen to music, I do listen for the French horns, and I do follow them.
There you go. You're already working like a musician.
Now, does it also work with talk? For example, when two people have a conversation, does that also work as a healing modality?
Oh, yeah. Firstly, just being with other people in healthy relationships, right? So I'm going to outline that. Okay. You want to have a healthy conversation with people. That is very good. And having a good social network is very important for brain health. It's like one of the most, and that's why a lot of people, they seem to be perfectly fine until they retire. And all of a sudden they lose interest in everything. They don't do the things they used to do. They have trouble with words. Part of that reason is, number one, they're not getting the intellectual stimulation from doing a job. There's also the lack of social interaction. We need to have social interaction. So having a good conversation with people is a very powerful way to keep our brains in shape, and also to help prevent dementia.
But Kate,
the other part of that is
I'm sorry to cut you off, but something just came to mind. If social interaction is very important for good brain health, what is happening to the youth of today when they're not enjoying the conversations with other people? They're not going out and playing with other people, during the day or at night. They don't get involved in as many sporting activities because they're on their iPhones all the time.
Oh boy, you've hit a nerve with me there, Rob. I'm very concerned.
I am too.
I think that we are going to see a whole generation of young people with big problems later on. We already know that social skills are they're diminishing very rapidly. Try to have a conversation with a young person that is not that is on the phone or on their phones all the time.
Oh, forget it.
Try to have a conversation.
Forget it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a real problem. And another thing, actually, the blue light,
yes,
and the position that you are in when you are looking at those phones, they're actually having young kids, with basically like a widow's hump. They used to call it a widow's hump, but big, serious neck problems. And that also can impact the health of your brain, because what does that mean? You're cutting off oxygen and blood to your brain.
Once again, why is no one doing anything about it? I mean, besides you and very few other people that you know of. It's
the culture has made this connectivity so essential to life. It seems like if you don't check your phone every 10 minutes, then you might be missing out on something, because the idea is that you have to know what's going on, even though you don't know the person that's right in the room with you. You have no conversation with them, but you know what your friend 5 blocks away is doing or having at a party.
But we don't need that connectivity. We don't need to know what's going on 7/24, 365. The only people who are gaining in this entire scenario, in my opinion, are the cell carriers, are the manufacturers of the phones, and anything to do with the industry. Because we lived very well before all this Wi-Fi and the cell phones. We lived very well before all the junk food that the kids are eating now. It seems that
it's going to be a real problem, Rob, because we've got sugar overloads. We've got these artificial colors and flavorings. We've got the cell phones. We've got the disconnect. We have the lack of physical activity. I have 3 grandchildren, and I can tell you I have to fight with them to get them to come out with me when I'm at their house, to come out and go outside.
Well, we've got 15 grandchildren. And,
oh my Lord.
And plus 2 great-grandchildren. And there are those who my children make sure that they're in sports, they're in dance, they're in gymnastics, because from an early age, my children have heard that think outside the box. Yeah, it's really cool to have a cell phone. It's really cool to be able to communicate with your buddies and your friends instantaneously. But when you go to the gas station and it tells you shut your cell phones off before filling your gas tank, it's something's not right here, gang. And just to be prepared and just to err on the side of what if, put the cell phones down. You don't need them. You know, like when I went to school, we had our parents gave us each a dime as the telecommunications if we needed to call home. It went to something called a phone booth, and you put the dime in, and you had a rotor there that you put your finger in. Well, you remember those times, Kate?
I sure do.
You know, and Kate, it's
many times calling my mom looking for help.
Right, and it's so pathetic, Kate, when you go to restaurants these days. Like our children are all grown up, and our grandchildren are on their way up. You go into a family restaurant, and you've got families sitting there. They're not talking to each other. They're all on their cell phones.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I see that even here in Ecuador. I was really shocked when I moved here. I thought that it would not be so prevalent here, but it's even worse here.
Really?
Every time you turn around, somebody's on the dang phone. In fact, we have a joke about they're transitos. That's the traffic police here. And if they're not on a cell phone, it must not be a real transito, because they're always looking at their phone. You know? So, yeah, it's bad here too, but that is a real issue for the brain in so many ways because of the lack of communication, the blue screen, the Wi-Fi. Right. All of those things are a big problem, and people sleep with them under their pillows. I can tell you that is the worst thing you can do for your brain right there, is have an active cell phone on under your pillow.
Why would they put the cell phone under the pillow?
So that they don't miss anything. There could be a
God's
message
sake.
coming in. There could be
heaven's sake.
Something coming in. You don't want to miss anything, Rob.
And yet there are studies out there that show that sleeping with a cell phone or any Wi-Fi piece of equipment or technology or electronics within a certain number of feet from you is dangerous.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but you can't. It's really hard to get people. In fact, at our house, the Wi-Fi goes off at night. If we don't have any guests on the property, the Wi-Fi is turned off at night.
Good for you.
Yeah, because we don't need it. Somebody needs to reach me that badly. My phone is in the kitchen.
Right.
My bedroom is many, many feet away from the kitchen. The phone's there. If somebody really needs me, they can call me.
Our youngest daughter says, "Dad, you didn't answer your phone." I said, "It didn't ring." "Oh, Dad, I just called you a few minutes ago." "Sweetheart, it didn't ring." "Well, Dad, I called you on your cell." "Well, that's why I don't answer it. I don't sleep with my cell." You know what? Yeah. I don't. Yeah. And I do something after the shows every night is I just kind of sit back. I go into the living room where it's nice and dark, it's nice and quiet, and I just sit there for about 10 minutes.
Good.
And I guess this is like my meditation. Yeah. So these are interesting, troubling times we have, Kate. How do you think that we can all get this information out there and just let the people know, and God bless the families who have patients with Alzheimer's, let them know that it's not a death sentence?
Yeah, so I think the best thing you can do is by example, right? Because if you, like a lot of us, like even just humming. Say you're in a group and you start humming, and you have a chance then to open up a conversation.
Right.
Or you decide, I'm going to learn to play the French horn. I'm going to learn to play the French horn, and then people will say, "Why are you going to learn to play?" Well, because having musical education, playing an instrument, makes your brain stronger. It gives you a thicker corpus callosum, so the communication between your right and left hemispheres is stronger, and you have more cognitive reserve. So if something happens, you're not going to lose your mind. So, that's why I'm taking up the French horn at this age.
Right.
And it's never too late, by the way. It's never too late. But I think by example, by doing things that make people ask questions, why are you doing that?
All right, Kate,
That's
stand
a
by,
good way
my
to
dear.
start a conversation.
I'm sorry, Kate, we have to take our final break for this hour. And Dexo Nation, our guest is Kate KUNKEL. Now, listen, if you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, or if somebody is concerned about Alzheimer's and you'd like to get a copy of the report that Kate is going to send me an email. I'll be glad to send it to you. xzone@classic1220.ca. And Kate and I will be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up tonight here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in... Got it ready? Are you all ready? You know what I'm going to say. Your hometown classic radio, Classic 1220. Don't go away.
Don't give up on us, baby. Don't make the wrong seem right. The future isn't just one night. It's written in the moonlight and painted on the stars. We can't change ours. Don't give up on us, baby.
And welcome back, everyone. That has got to be one of my favorite songs. It's by David Soul, one of the two original stars of the Starsky and Hutch TV show. Don't Give Up on Us by David Soul. We also played this hour, let me see, Turn, Turn, Turn by the Byrds. We also played I Will Play a Rhapsody by Burton Cummings, and Climax, Precious and Few. My guest this hour is Kate KUNKEL. Her website is brainhealthmatters.today. First of all, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. This is really important information, and we will do everything we can to help you spread the word. And like I said, Exo Nation, if you would like to get a copy of the reports that Kate is going to be sending us, we'll be glad to send them to you. All you need to do is send me an email, xzone@classic1220.ca, and we'll make sure you get a copy. We were talking about vibrations. We were talking about music. We're talking about humming. What about drumming? How does that work?
Drumming is so interesting. It's a really powerful brain enhancer.
Why? How does it work?
So when you drum, now I'm talking about somebody with a drum kit,
right?
Like with an actual drum. But what happens is, think of all the things that have to go on when you're drumming. You've got one hand keeping one kind of a beat, another hand keeping another beat. You've got your feet doing different things, and you're listening to other musicians. In most cases, you're working with other musicians. And
sometimes you're singing on top of that, like Karen Carpenter, Ringo Starr, Phil Collins from Genesis. Man, they were...
Exactly.
Yeah, gosh, yeah.
So when that's happening, you're generating neural connections in all parts of your brain. And that happens even if there has been damage or impairment, like if you've had a stroke or some other kind of brain injury, like a TBI.
Right.
So when you're doing that, you can actually enhance connections if everything is pretty well okay, but you can also retrain the brain by improving the connections between neurons. So, and I talked about the corpus callosum being thicker for musicians.
Yes. Drumming
really enhances the connections between the hemispheres of the brain.
Because it is so, there's so much to do and so much involved in making a drum, like you were saying. You've got the bass pedal, you've got the cymbals, the top hats, and then you've got the cymbal array and the drum array.
Exactly. So you've got all of that going on, and you have to remember what everybody's doing, like keep tabs on everybody else. But it actually changes the physical structure of the brain. So we talked about the corpus callosum.
Yes.
So it's actually thicker, and so because it's thicker, it speeds up the transfer of information between different areas of the brain. The thicker the fibers, the better the drummer, the more robust their brain health is.
But that can apply to electronics as well as the internet. The thicker the feed, the more information that can flow.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. I never thought of that, but that's actually 100% right. And it can actually, like I play the harp, and it's not quite as much going on, but if you've got your feet and your hands going and you're singing, it's very much the same. Piano players, anybody who plays like with multiple parts of the body, it really, it does the same kind of thing. And because you're able to play different rhythms, it changes the way the brain functions. So it makes your brain more efficient. The brain doesn't have to work so hard, even when you're conducting normal daily motor tasks, like when you're doing something, fixing something, doing dishes. Your brain doesn't have to work so hard because it's so much more efficient. How cool is that?
That's pretty darn cool. That is very cool. So when we look at drumming, there's a lot of different philosophies that use drumming circles. For example, the indigenous people of Australia, then you've got the First Nations in Canada, the United States. There's also chanting. Does all of us work together? Did they know something way back then that was forgotten to be passed on?
Yeah, they sure did. The shamans knew exactly what they were doing. Yeah, music was, and still is, in most indigenous cultures, certainly here in Ecuador as well. The music is so important. It's part of your being.
Yeah.
It's part of all of our being. What's the first thing we hear? What's the first thing we know as human beings? Our mother's heartbeat. That's rhythm.
That's right.
So it's through the ages. My very first book, written 24 years ago now, was called The Healing Sound of Music, and I tracked all of the things that happened with different cultures, and all through the ages. Music, the harp, David's harp for Saul. There's so many things through the ages. I think it started to be put to the wayside when we got this idea of the chemical medical model of health, rather than the holistic model of health. That's where we lost that. But drumming circles are so powerful. It's like, and also chanting and singing with other people.
Right.
Firstly, it sets up a resonance. We talked about frequency right at the very first of this conversation. It sets up a resonance in your body. It sets up a resonance in the room. It sets up a connection between the people. When all that's happening together, your physical being, your emotional, psychological being is healthier because we're connected, because we are vibrating at the healthy rate.
When you go to church at Christmas or Easter, you can feel when everybody is there in the congregation and they're singing the Christmas carols or they're singing the Easter hymns. You can actually feel it resonating in you, and you can feel the vibration, and you can feel yourself. I don't know if it's got to do with something with the release of endorphins or whatever, but
it does change. It does have hormonal, absolutely. There's all kinds of hormonal stuff going on that improves, and it also then inspires neurotransmitters. So that's part of it. But it's also just a good feeling, right?
It is.
We're human beings. We're meant to be together. We're meant to work in unison.
Then why don't we?
Bob,
there's the question, right? Yeah. My last question for you tonight is, you talk a lot about exercise for a better brain. Is there a difference between dancing and, say, running or swimming?
As far as physical activity, not really, no. But, as far as the physical benefits.
Right.
But in terms of the brain, I can tell you that dancing, especially if you're doing dancing like salsa, where you're working with a partner, or ballroom dancing, cool. Or anything like that, where the steps are intricate, it does the same kind of thing for you. In addition to the physical activity, it's doing the same thing for you as drumming or playing a musical instrument, right? Because you're having to think about so many things going on, coordinate with others, and in most cases, you've got that physical connection with others while you're doing it. How great is dancing? It's one of my all-time favorite. I think it's one of the best things you can do. If you start having any kind of cognitive issues or physical issues, start dancing.
A good friend of mine is a neurologist, and he's also a neuro researcher. And he was saying that, people who who go online and they download puzzles. It's a great way to help the mind. It's keeping the mind energized. It's keeping the mind thinking. And, is this a brain way of doing exercise?
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that I use personally is called Brain HQ, and it's like an online cognitive booster. It's great. Dr. Bredesen recommends it, but I love it because it's got all different kinds of like puzzles, and
Wow.
you have to, like, it works on your peripheral vision and all of those things. It's great. I just love it. And I'm not a computer game person at all,
Yeah,
or a puzzle person.
I just can't see how there are some people who can sit in front of their computer for days on end playing these games. It just boggles my imagination. Like, how in the name of heaven can you do that? Then there are people who spend most of their conscious life in a virtual reality setting online. They get married online. They get divorced online. Like, come on, aren't we taking it a little bit too far to one extreme?
I feel the same way about artificial intelligence generally.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm getting a whole lot of upset about that whole nonsense, but there's nothing I can do about it. Can I say one thing before I forget?
You can
It's
say
really
whatever you
important.
want, my dear.
Because people are recommended to do things like crosswords or Sudoku or whatever. And that's great. It's good. But you have to do different things all
Right.
the time.
Yeah.
Our brains can get very bored and they start to atrophy if you do the same thing all the time. So if you are going to do puzzles or whatever,
Change
switch
them.
it up.
Exactly. Kate, I've got 1 minute and a half left. What are your final thoughts? What would you like to share with the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Please make music. If you want a healthy brain, make music in some way. Hum, sing, tone, drum. Join a choir.
Oh, there's an idea.
It's so good for you.
Or go to karaoke.
Dance. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Karaoke's fine.
Yeah. And
You're
it's
with
fun.
people, you're singing, you're stimulating the vagus nerve. Make music in some way. I've got my book number 3 in the Healthy Brain series is called The Musical Brain. And there's a reason it's so important. Make music for a better brain.
Where are your books available? Where can our listeners buy your books?
Yeah, they're all on Amazon. If you go to brainhealthmatters.today, thank you for mentioning the website. There's a section there called books. And right now they're all digital, except for my first one, Don't Let the Memories Fade. And that is also available in paperback.
Kate, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you for the research that you've done. And because I know that your goal is to help people, so my hat is off to you. You've got my undying respect, and I always look forward to the next time we speak to you here in the X-Zone, Kate.
Thanks so much, Rob. A pleasure again.
You take care of yourself, my friend. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to get more information about our guest this hour, Kate KUNKEL, visit her website, brainhealthmatters.com. And like I said, if you'd like a copy of either of the reports that we talked to Kate about on this hour here in the X-Zone, send me an email, xzone@classic1220.ca. That's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. And I'll be here Monday through Friday from 10 until midnight. So until next we meet here in the X-Zone, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.